Hey everyone, welcome to Meet the Games, episode 5. I am your host, John Hood from Infinite Lives, and joining me as always is Mr. Dan Paredes. Hello, Dan.
How's it going?
It's going fantastic.
It's great.
Yeah. Today we're going to take a look at a couple different games. We're going to look at Dex, which is a cyberpunk side-scrolling action game from Dreadlocks Limited. And Dan, what did you take a look at?
I'm looking at The Magic Circle by Question. It's a game within a game. It's kind of a meta thing.
You're messing with my mind here.
Breaking off all walls.
All right, well, why don't we jump right into it? We're going to first take a look at Dex by Dreadlocks Limited. As someone who had a passing interest in the cyberpunk genre growing up, and not much else, the past few years have actually seen my interest in the genre widen, as I've been involved in some pen and paper games of Shadowrun, and even more recently having had not one, but 2 really good games released by Harebrained Schemes in the past 2 years alone, set in the Shadowrun universe. So upon seeing an extended gameplay sequence of Dex by Dreadlocks Limited, I was ready to dive in and try a more action-oriented game set in a similar universe. And while I've enjoyed my time with the game overall, I'm not sure I can currently recommend the game right now. The game casts you as Dex, and throws you headfirst right into her journey as she is forced to flee from the dreaded Complex, who are chasing her down for reasons unknown. Your partner in this escape is Raycast, a disembodied voice who gives you a crash course on hacking and sends you on your way. Along the way, you will engage with a cast of characters whose names must have been pulled out of a Cyberpunk by Numbers glossary. I mean, for goodness sakes, the main contact you deal with in the beginning is named Decker. I can't make this kind of crap up. And if the names weren't generic enough, the stereotypes on hand are just as bad, with the nerdy hacker being an overweight guy with a whiny voice. In fact, all around the voice acting in this game just seems slightly off. Like everyone only gave half a damn about the stuff that they were reading. So it kind of deflates any kind of significance the story might actually have felt. And it would have been more substantial, but in the end it just feels like poorly acted radio play. Which is sad because the actual world that has been crafted is the game's strongest part. The character models as well as all of the backgrounds and animations looks to be where the most time was spent on the game. And it really does look like something out of Blade Runner for sure, with the bustle of people in the populated areas, and the slums looking like an abandoned industrial district where folks with nowhere left to go have decided to just make into some kind of home. All in all, the game is almost worth buying just to appreciate what the devs have crafted, but then you actually have to play the game, and this is where it eventually falls apart. Since this is an action game, you of course have to deal with your fair share of platforming as well as combat. It seems so many games I've played recently, Axiom Verge excluded, have had controls that I feel like I'm fighting with half the time, and this game is no exception. Moving around the environment is fine if not smooth, but it's the combat in this game where it really needs some serious work. In the beginning, you're pretty much stuck doing melee attacks, which animate nicely and will work just fine if the controls didn't always seem to be fighting me on what they want to do. In most cases, I just found myself wailing on the attack button next to a guy until he decided to try and flee, and makes trying to finish off the enemies a chore. Not to mention the fact that enemies will juke and shimmy their way around you, which never seems realistic. I guess you could try to engage the enemies in the terrible range combat that features no real way to target an enemy unless you're playing with a mouse and keyboard, which for an action game like this is truly outrageous. A simple lock-on could have solved it, but it's as if the devs thought people should engage in their melee combat more, and just didn't think about the range combat at all. There's a character progression system for skills, an augmentation system that is barely explained, and the economy in the game seems poorly balanced against buying anything. And I haven't even mentioned the hacking subgame so far that is plastered all over it, and features a woefully generic cyberspace, which involves little more than circling around enemies and hoping you can shoot them enough before a timer ends, and you're forced to wait for a bar to recharge so that you can go back in and complete the hack. It's half-assed stuff like this where I just wish the developers had spent a bit more time on the game, or kept it in early access or something to continue to build out the features more. As much as I like Cyberpunk and the art design though, I just can't quite recommend Dex at the current price of $20, but I could possibly encourage you to give it a look if it drops below $10 during one of the infinite sales that happens with PC games. For now, just take solace in the fact that the genre is well in hand by other studios, and boot up Shadowrun Returns or Dragonfall again for another playthrough. You'll have a much better time.
And that was Dex. So John, you played this with a controller?
Yeah, once I got it set up. It did take a little bit of finagling to get it to work, so...
So is it... You think it's meant to be played with a controller?
games like this should be played with a controller, but apparently I don't know. They have plenty of keyboard controls and they have like keyboard layout like set up for this. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, playing this with a keyboard, I've moved beyond playing games like this with a keyboard.
Where the options set up that there's like a default like gamepad.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It knows when you plug in a gamepad.
Okay, so it's supposed to be usable with a gamepad.
Yeah, it's just not done very well.
Yeah, and it didn't look like the ranged combat was
Oh god, that was awful, because, like I said, that's where I think they designed that portion of the combat to be played with a mouse and keyboard, because with the sticks, it's like you can aim up and down, but you can also put a distance on it, which I think is kind of stupid for a game like this, which is a side-scroller. They should just give you up and down control and then shoot in that direction.
So even if you aim past the guy, it wouldn't actually hit?
As you see in the video, like, the range combat's so terrible, I engaged in it maybe 3 times in the time I played with it.
So how far did you actually get into the game?
Maybe about 4 hours into it. Yeah. So I was progressing through the quest a bit. I got to a point where it's like, oh, now you gotta go take down this big tower. I forget, I had to hack something major that wasn't...
Yeah. Well, do you think you'd actually try to finish the game? Like, do you have any sense of where you are in it?
Not really, but I know that I'll probably end up picking up it again and finishing it. It was, like I said, the world itself was so cool to look at. Like, the actual art assets that they have in place are really pretty. And it does, it's that kind of game that I like a lot. That style. I like Cyberpunk. I like, that Blade Runner-esque Shadowrun thing. So I'll probably play it just to see all of the areas, because I hadn't explored everything yet. But yeah, overall, I think I'll probably finish it at some point.
So regular price, this is
$20.
$20.
I think I got it for $15 because it was on sale during the week it was released. Yeah. So, but not worth $20 for sure.
Well, that's kind of sad.
Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about Dex. Why don't we move on to the next game, which is The Magic Circle.
You know that Russian doll that you can open up and have another doll stored inside? Then you can open up that doll and have another doll, and so on and so on. Well, I don't know if the Magic Circle from developer Question has that many layers, but it has a ton of originality and a very interesting story. The Magic Circle is about a game lost in developmental hell called The Magic Circle. And this is a remake for a fictional classic, The Magic Circle. Magic Circle, Magic Circle, Magic Circle. I wasn't going to refer to Inception, but what the hell? The Magic Circle has a unique setting with an awesome look. Without giving away too much, at one point you play through an older version of the game that just looks brilliant. Video clips don't do this justice, but I love the visuals. In fact, the Magic Circle touches upon pure brilliance. There are some really great ideas in this game. And the gameplay largely consists of altering objects and changing the behaviors of characters to solve various challenges. There seems to be multiple ways to complete these quote-unquote puzzles, and that is always a welcome feature. It is played from a first-person perspective, but it is not a shooter. Players expecting an action-packed romp will not find that here. The Magic Circle is strangely more akin to Gone Home, in that the story, setting, and mood are more important than destroying legions upon legions of faceless antagonists. The story is unsurprisingly the best part of the Magic Circle, and I'd rather not spoil the experience. I will say that being a game about a game, it touches upon themes of being a creator, game development, expectations, and consumer hype, and personal sacrifice for your profession, and a whole lot more. The voice acting is top-notch.
Your sword, and virtue your shield. Now go, hero.
Okay. I'll stay on until the demo, but wait till I tell you my
You make your own circle. It's like ripping a black hole in there.
The themes are complex, and it makes a definite impression. I love when you can tell that a game is a product of a very personal matter, and the Magic Circle feels like a very personal game. I feel that this is the video game version of an indie art house movie. The analogy isn't perfect, but I like when art attempts to self-analyze. If I had to list any shortcomings, you should know that this is about a 5 to 6 hour game. This doesn't bother me, but it is short. I would love to see what a big, expensive version of the Magic Circle would be, but that just might make the game weirdly ironic. I wholeheartedly recommend the Magic Circle. It challenges your assumptions and expectations and leaves you with a desire to create.
So that was Magic Circle. Dan, I played this at PAX last year.
I did too.
Yeah, that pretty much got us on the Magic Circle train, as it were.
Yes.
Is there much that's changed since the build that we played back then?
The portion that we played in that demo, it's roughly about the same. I didn't notice anything too different. Actually, I didn't notice much being different.
Yeah,
but,
and it was really good, like what I played. So I'm definitely on board with you, like wanting to play this at some point.
Yeah, I'd stress again that it's really a game. It's very akin to Gone Home, like I mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Not in the fact that they're the same type of game, but in the fact that like this isn't a game about like action and destroying stuff and killing people. Mm-hmm. It's a game that you kind of go through this kind of journey, mm-hmm. and you're kind of learning about like developmental cycle and those kind of things.
Yeah, and you and also in Gone Home, that's a very personal tale, which you kind of touch on in this game too. We had an interview with the developers.
Yeah.
We know that they've worked on
with
some
a couple
stuff.
of them.
Yeah,
actually.
a couple of the developers. So
yeah, so I'll just a small disclaimer. I actually got this game for free, mm-hmm. As a preview build early on, and then it was upgraded to a full version build. But and I've also become kind of friends with one of the developers, mm-hmm. and so these guys. This is the first game that this trio of developers. Three guys have made under the Question label, but they're kind of veterans of the industry. They've worked on everything from like BioShock Infinite to BioShock 2. I think one of the Thieves games.
System Shock, right?
I don't think it's System Shock.
Okay, but they were part of that studio. So yeah.
Yes, Dishonored. Mm-hmm. South Park. Mm-hmm. One of the guys consulted on South Park.
Oh yeah, so a bunch of big games,
so big games. So you kind of see that in this, mm-hmm. where it's the Magic Circle, the fictional Magic Circle, is supposed to be a big game. It's supposed to be a really hyped up release, and there's just a bunch of stuff that happens in the developmental part of that. Mm-hmm. Dealing with fans, dealing with interdepartment rivalries, and those kind of things, and expectations. So you can see where they inject a lot of that stuff in their game.
Yeah, like I said, it definitely seems like a labor of love for these guys.
It isn't a game for everyone, mm-hmm. and I find that really refreshing.
Yeah,
that they're confident enough that they're going to make a game that they want to make.
Yeah,
regardless of whether or not it's going to be a success. But I looked on Steam last night, and
mm-hmm.
there was 29 reviews for the game.
Oh wow!
And 100% are positive. So
far. Look at that!
So that's pretty good.
That means that their fans are actually going out and like saying everybody should play this, or they're at least telling people that they enjoyed it. So
yeah, I think this will really be something for, I hate to say it, but not for the mainstream crowd.
Oh, it definitely doesn't feel like a mainstream game.
Yeah, this is something for people who like reading about games, mm-hmm. reading about games before their release, playing games before their release, and knowing that whole process. These are for people who contribute to Kickstarters and things like that. People will get the jokes, and people will get the references, and kind of understand, kind of have this sympathetic view on it.
So that was Meet the Games episode 5. We took a look at Dex by Dreadlocks Limited, and we also took a look at the Magic Circle by Question. I hope you enjoyed our looks at these games. I know I enjoy talking about them with Dan. Dan's just going to sit there and wave at you constantly.
I had a lot of fun today.
I did too. Even though the game I played wasn't the most fun. So
it happens.
That's going to do it for us on Meet the Games this week. Thanks for joining us. I'm your host, John Hood. Dan's going to say goodbye.
Dan P.